Hatsy and I'm back with a brand new build video, and this time we are going to be building an Italian mansion. So this is part of the Dream House series that I haven't been keeping up with, but I'm hoping to be sharing one of these every now and again. And if you want to be part of the series, if you want to make a family for it and then I can make the house, the hashtag is #HatsyHomes, and all you need to do is just like make a family, make a little description with the kind of house that you'd want to see, and then I will try my best to make it, like when I can get around to it. So this family that I chose, I fell in love with because they were so different from what I'd seen, and I think it's pretty interesting. So I'll read it out and then I'll explain like why I kind of liked it, and yeah, like why I think it's very realistic. So the family was by Happyland17, and the description for the family is that Aaron is a rich celebrity and has now married Liliana, who has only married him for his money. They both came from rich farmhouse families and only married for the publicity, but are stuck together forever now, well, until their agents can figure out a good time to split up. One thing that Liliana is demanding for is a big modern mansion. They have an unlimited budget and they just want a big new house. So the reason why I thought that was pretty realistic is because the people that I've known with like a lot of money before, like so much money, have often been quite unhappy. As strange as that sounds, I always think to myself, if I ever lived in a mansion like this, how on earth could I be unhappy? But I've seen it. And yeah, I just thought something to me just really sparked realism. And I thought that's a really good storyline because it's different. And I don't know, I got an image of like what I would do for the machinima and stuff. And I thought they fit. So I actually built the house before I chose them and they just really fitted it. So yeah, I hope you like it. It's not supposed to be an unhappy house, so don't get me wrong. I mean, you can download it and you can make your own storyline up, of course, or you can go and download The Family, which sound like a pretty good family to be fair, and they've got a great storyline, so you could definitely have some fun there. But yeah, completely up to you either way. I just thought that it was really interesting to have a little bit of a different story for the house like this. So anyway, talking about the build itself, I got really inspired off a picture that I saw on Twitter. So I don't usually follow a lot of Twitter pages that share houses and stuff. I think I follow about 4, which I don't consider to be a lot. Because to be fair, I could just have my whole newsfeed plastered with houses, but I don't do that. I only have the ones that really stick out for me. And there's someone called Millennia Sims Builds who shares things, and they are absolutely amazing. Like, they choose the best stuff to share, I swear. And I fell in love with this. So I actually researched the house a bit because this house is inspired off one that I saw off a picture. And it turns out that it's actually built by somebody that is famous from what I know. And he actually makes celebrity houses. So he basically designs the houses and I guess the celebrities pay for them, and that's it. Like, that's how it works. But I think that's amazing. I mean, that would be a dream job for me. I don't even know how you would sort of get into that, but it's incredible. And the house itself also has an interior. So the whole interior of this build, if you're wondering why it's a little bit traditional, I saw how he had it and I thought that looks really good, and I definitely want to sort of fit that in with the build. So it's not exactly what he's made because I didn't want to completely copy it, and also we don't have all the items in the Sims 4. However, I think it looks okay. You know, I think it looks similar to it, but it's not too similar for you to be like, oh my gosh, it's a replica. Because I don't like to build replicas of things. I like to have my own take on it as well. So yeah, that's the background on the house, really. I did use split flooring, which meant there was more room. If you ever want a house to look smaller than it is, and you kind of want like a lot of room at the same time, then you could kind of have the front being on the first floor because then you get the whole under space of the build. So a lot of it is in the basement, as strange as that sounds, almost, I guess. I don't even know how it works, to be honest. It's all a bit higgledy-piggledy, but I think it works and it's a different style of house. So yeah, I'm happy with that. So anyway, I was thinking about what to talk about for this build video, and a couple of stories come into mind because it is sort of a Mediterranean style of house and I love that. And I've got like a few holiday stories that I just haven't shared yet, which I need to tell you about, because how on earth did this happen to not just me, but my family? So So this isn't even half my drama. This is like my family drama, but I find it so funny because a lot of people say like, how can this stuff happen to me all the time? I can tell you that it happens to my family just as much. My family have terrible luck with stuff, especially with employing people. Oh my goodness. They've had the worst luck with that just ever. So yeah, there are 2 stories here about my Ibiza experience, and we have an experience every time we go to Ibiza, but that's a holiday for me. Like, a holiday isn't a holiday without drama. So basically, my family have an apartment in Ibiza, and it's in San Gilali, which is the quieter part of Ibiza, I guess, because you get the party, the nightclub bit, which I've never actually been to. And a lot of people go to San Antonio for partying and stuff, but I've never been. I think that maybe one time I will, but I've never really been like a partier or anything. I know that I'm old enough to do it, but honestly, I just don't get it, like, at all. So yeah, I prefer to go in the quiet part, so I always stay in there, and honestly, there is so much drama there, it's funny. However, I've gone there from probably about the age of 4, so I mean, I don't know any different anyway. It's just a great place to go. Now, one of my favorite places to go in Ibiza just itself is a place called Restaurant Row. And I guess it's like pretty close to where my parents live. It's in walking distance, and it's basically a row of restaurants down this random street in San Gilali, and you find so many different restaurants there. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a row of restaurants, but there's like 50 of them, and they're all different. Like, they're all completely unique. You'll get, I don't know, the Chinese restaurant, the German restaurant, the Italian restaurant. It's just crazy, just the different cultures and the different decorations, and there's just such a good atmosphere there. It's amazing. So yeah, we always go there. We pretty much live down there when we go to Ibiza. By the way, not sponsored. I don't think the Restaurant Row is an official business, so you don't have to worry. It's just like an unofficial name for the road, basically. So anyway, been going there since the age of 4. Now, I am not in this story to start with, but I come in later on. So basically, my parents go by themselves, and I didn't even know they were in Ibiza at this point, but they decided to have like a surprise holiday and just like go down, see the apartment, just spend a couple of days out there. And they went down Restaurant Row and they found a new restaurant there. So I say a new restaurant in inverted commas, but it's just like French, Italian kind of styled restaurant. I say French Italian because I think even they were confused with what it was because there were so many different things going on there. It was crazy. But this one place, because it's like this beautiful place on the road, it must be cursed. Honestly, you think I'm cursed? But this place must go out of business like every single year or so, and new people take over all the time. Like, we've known of this restaurant for about, I don't know, 15 years or so, probably more than that. And yeah, like it's a known fact. It just gets taken over a lot. So my parents decided to try it out and try out the new people that were taking over it. It doesn't happen a lot. A lot of the restaurants do really well and they're like really successful, but for some reason, there's just something that just doesn't click with this venue. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's in the wrong place, to be fair. Anyway, they tried it out and they had a bit of a bad experience there because, well, number one, the service was like really slow, like seriously slow. I think they probably waited about an hour and a half to even be served. And I don't know how they had the patience, because honestly, my parents have this rule that they will walk out a restaurant if they're not served within the first like 5 to 10 minutes. It's insane. So they kind of stuck around just waiting, and yeah, anyway, they eventually got served. I think the waiter then recommended the most expensive thing on the menu to my mum and was really pushing it for it. And I don't think my mum even asked for a recommendation. He just kind of said, oh, you should definitely go for this. And he obviously just really wanted to buy the most expensive thing on the menu. There was no one else there as well. So we're kind of thinking this isn't a good sign, because like the whole street is packed and then this restaurant only has like them in. So I don't know, warning signs started to go off to them. And yeah, anyway, the meal came and there was something that my mum specifically didn't ask for on a plate. And I think what topped it off for them was the fact that they were constantly asking for a jug of water like all the way through the meal. And not at one point did a jug of water come. So they were there for like 2.5 hours, I think, because it took them ages and it was blazing hot. It was so hot. And yeah, they kept like ordering wine and stuff, but they just kept like coincidentally forgetting about the bottle of water or the jug of water. So this is relevant, by the way. This isn't a petty story. No, this gets dramatic and fast. So anyway, they kind of dismissed it a bit, but my mum's one of these people that she's like a silent complainer. She will go home and she will write a review on TripAdvisor. And that's exactly what she's been doing. I love reading her reviews though, because they are so passive aggressive. And yeah, she basically went back and she wrote a review and she was like, I really like it, but unfortunately, like we had a bad experience with the jug of water. I don't think it was a particularly bad review. It was honestly just telling people her experience of it. It wasn't over dramatic. It was fine. It was an honest experience of what she went through. And this is a thing, because like I've written bad reviews on TripAdvisor before, and I've got replies back from the management or whoever it is saying, I'm really sorry this happened. Please come back for like, I don't know, a free round of drinks or something. So that's pretty good. However, they didn't get that. No. So this is where I come into this. So next time that I'm in Ibiza with my parents, now bear in mind they mentioned the jug of water. So we're walking innocently down Restaurant Row at this point, like innocently down Restaurant Row. Not going to say the name of the restaurant because that is against what I'm trying to do here. Like I'm not trying to send people on a witch hunt for them or anything. It's just funny, like what happens. Oh my goodness, I actually can't get over this though. So we're walking down and all of a sudden we see the manager come out the restaurant of the French, Spanish, Italian, like whatever it was. I have no idea. They were even confused. Came out of it. And this is in front of everybody in the street. So I'm standing there with my mum, my dad, and James. And we're looking for a restaurant to eat at, but obviously we're not going to eat there. And he runs out in front of the people that are already sat down. There's like, I don't know, there's 2 people I think already sat down in his restaurant at this time. And there are also passers-by on the street just walking past, seeing what's happening. And he starts shouting at my mum, saying, Carafe d'eau, like really loud and just aggressive, and not in like a funny way, like haha, yeah, funny, carafe d'eau. It was like in an aggressive way, and then stuck his finger up. Oh my goodness, like I actually can't get over this. This is too bad though. So at that point, I stepped back and I was like, whoa, this guy just targeted my mum. He just targeted my mum. I can't believe it. So yeah, my mum is an absolute target for this sort of stuff. This stuff always happens. I hate to say, but it runs in the family. So after that, I think we were all pretty shocked, but we just walked off. We didn't have any interactions with him whatsoever. And I think we ended up eating at like, I think it was the Japanese or something. It was a really good restaurant from what we ate at. But yeah, anyway, James took offense at this because he didn't like the fact that this man like actually picked on my mum. And not only that though, it was in the street in front of everybody. So everyone saw it. And that might be like a small thing, but can you imagine though, the spotlight's on you and you're just walking down and this random man comes out like shouting at your mum, shouting like carafe d'eau, which is like jug of water in French. That's not a good accent. So yeah, anyway, James gets back and I didn't realise James was doing this. But James was plotting because he was really offended about this. By the way, if you don't know, James is my husband. So James said, well, I'm actually really offended that this guy just like came out of nowhere and started just like ranting in the street at my mum, just like ranting and raving about this jug of water. And obviously it was about the review. He didn't like it. He read the review that my mum read about the jug of water and he didn't like it. And he was like sarcastically or like aggressively, whatever it was, saying about a jug of water in front of everyone, and then like it made it look like my mum was in an argument with him, but she really wasn't. So James did his research on this restaurant, and from what he found, we don't know if this is true, this is absolutely speculation on our part. However, the reviews for that restaurant were absolutely incredible. Like, you wouldn't find a bad one at all. I don't think you would find one under 4 stars. And they were all like 5 stars. This was amazing, best meal I've ever had. And they were all written in a really similar way. And also it was like one of the top rated restaurants in the whole of San Giuliano, which is really unusual because every single time we walk past there, no one was there. So the only thing we could think of was the fact that maybe somebody had written them all themselves, or they bought reviews, I don't know. But they were all written in a really similar way as well, like the same kind of vocabulary was used, the same sort of wording was used, and the same spelling errors as well. So we just kind of thought, well, maybe they're written all by the same person. So anyway, James wrote a review, and James wrote that he went to the restaurant, and this is pretty much what he wrote. He wrote something along the lines of, I visited the restaurant last night at, I don't know, 6 p.m, and unfortunately, I found the manager in the street shouting abuse at a random passerby, so I didn't even go in. And it was something like that, just to sum it up for you. But I was laughing, he was laughing, my parents were laughing. I know it's pretty bad to write a review from somewhere that you haven't actually been, but there we go. So anyway, the people took it down. Like, that review was taken down very shortly after, within like 10 minutes. So the manager or whoever runs the restaurant would have been like really actively looking to be able to take it down that quickly, or I don't know, have notifications switched on at least. But yeah, it got taken down pretty much straight away. But before he did, he got a really snotty reply back, like something along the lines of, I make food for real people. And it was really weird. And anyway, the next time that we walked down Restaurant Row, we walked past, the manager was outside, I think he was like cleaning up a table or something, and he looked over to us, and we were like sort of walking down it. It's a narrow street as well, so you have to walk quite close to each other. Well, he looked at us and he had like this smirk on his face, and all I remember is James saying, Carafto. And at that point, his face dropped, because he then realised, like the penny dropped for him, he then knew that James was the one that wrote the review. And that was very funny. But yeah, anyway, that was the last time that we ever went there. It's very awkward when we walk down the street though, because we just try and avoid him. He doesn't know me by face, he doesn't know my dad by face, I don't think, and I don't think he'd even know James by face, but he just knows my mum. So she just has to be a little bit wary when she's walking down the street and just make sure that, I don't know, she's not looking at him, she's not giving eye contact, otherwise he will probably provoke her because he's got nothing better to do. So yeah, that is one of the things. Anyway, back to the build slightly. So we are decorating the interior and we've got a really similar theme going on. I changed the light colour all the way throughout the build, so you will notice that with the light colours it's really interesting. And if you want a build tip for like your own builds and stuff, I would honestly say that if you change the light colours and stuff, it just looks so much better on a build if they all match and stuff, or like you have an ongoing theme. So for this kind of Mediterranean build, I wanted like a terracotta kind of orangey vibe for the lighting. So the lighting does actually go a little bit like that. At the moment it's quite clear, but I think by the end, I think it's like quite orangey. I'm not honestly sure, but yeah, it looked pretty good. And you'll also notice that I'm changing some of the flooring. I really like that flooring. So yeah, we go with like a mix. It goes from traditional to a little bit of modern, but I like it. It's sort of like farmhousey as well, I guess. So it does really fit in with the characters because yeah, like I would imagine that they would have a house like this from their upbringing, but it's pretty interesting. For me personally, I've always grown up in traditional houses, so I've always been quite a traditional person myself. I don't know anyone that would make a leap from like very traditional to incredibly futuristic modern. But if that's you, if you've grown up in like a really traditional household and stuff, then let me know because that's really interesting. And if you've lived in a farmhouse before, are you somebody that would want to continue living in a farmhouse? Are you someone that would want to mix things up a bit if you ever moved out like of your parents' house, or like have you sort of mixed things up a bit? That's really interesting to find out sort of, does the house that you live in now match where you grew up? Or is it the opposite? I don't know. Pretty interesting. So yeah, anyway, the next story. Oh my goodness, this one is crazy. So this is another cleaner story, and I always feel bad for telling these because I do find them quite funny. This one particularly because this does also involve me, but it doesn't involve me for the first part again. So basically, my mum and dad didn't visit the apartment that much when they first bought it. They didn't trust like a lot of people going originally, and they had very good reason not to, and they don't trust people going now a lot. But at the moment, there are a lot of family members going very regularly. Like, we will have the apartment booked out for pretty much the whole year. But when we first had it, or like when they first had it rather, they wouldn't have a lot of guests in. So you'd find that the apartment would be pretty much just inactive, just no one would be living there for like 6 months. And that would mean that when people would arrive, the water wouldn't work and stuff like that because it hadn't been used in so long. So yeah, that was a massive issue because like every time we'd arrive to the apartment, the water wouldn't work and we'd have to go and buy these like massive jugs of water and stuff. So yeah, they basically decided to hire someone after we went there on holiday to come in every 2 weeks and just turn the taps on. That was pretty much their only job. They did have to sort of clean the surfaces and stuff like that and just give the apartment a sweep, but that was straight after we left. So they'd have to come in like once straight after we left and then every 2 weeks, and then that was it. Like, that was what they do. But they wouldn't sort of sweep the floor every week. What they would do is they would just like turn the taps on for 5 minutes and then they would go. And that was all my parents wanted. So they wanted someone that they really trusted, and we didn't know anyone at that point. We only knew people down Restaurant Row. Again, going back to the Restaurant Row. So there was a restaurant and my parents were incredibly close with 2 people that owned a restaurant down there, and they had this waitress, and apparently she was really okay with sort of helping out and doing that for my parents. So they were really excited about that. So yeah, they basically took it on because it was a recommendation from these kind of friends that they had, friends-ish, I'd say, that, you know, they're really nice. Like when we went to the restaurant, we were regulars, I guess, because we would go and visit every 6 months. And we would go to this restaurant a lot because it was like, especially for kids, they had amazing desserts there for children. I just remember that. So this lady comes to the house. We're going to call her Jo, because that's what I called the last person. But this is a different Jo. So Jo starts coming and she did a pretty good job as far as my parents knew. I mean, they couldn't really keep tabs on what she was doing because they wouldn't know, because they wouldn't see her for like 6 months. They would just have to trust her. They would pay her a lot of money up front to do 6 months of work. It was crazy, like the amount. They would just leave it on the side for her and just trust that she'd do it. So for the first 6 months, around that time, I think, she did okay. She was doing pretty well and she was coming back from what they knew, and it was going fine. So anyway, then what happened was the second 6 months that she came for like the last part of the year, she took the money and didn't do anything. So what ended up happening because of that was my grandparents ended up arriving. Yeah, my grandparents, my 8-year-old grandparents ended up arriving and the water wouldn't work for them. Are you kidding? Because Jo took the money. And I can't believe it. I can't begin to stress how much this story stresses me out. It really does. And yeah, anyway, so they end up going down to the restaurant and asking about it. My granddad, okay, just describe him to you. He is a very nice person. So is my grandma, and they're lovely people. My granddad, to kind of sum him up, he's like a very sort of small little man, ex-scientist. You can probably imagine the sort. You probably see someone like him in a lab coat with glasses. Like, he just looks very fragile. And he goes to this restaurant and he just asks, he just says, "Hi, like, we've just arrived, the water's not working. Jo obviously hasn't been. We're just kind of wondering what's going on here." And anyway, they got really defensive, the people that own the restaurant, and they didn't take my granddad's side at all. And they actually ended up throwing him out of the restaurant. They got really defensive and all he asked was a question. And they were like, "No, I think you should leave now." And that was it. So yeah, anyway, my parents then end up seeing the people that own the restaurant like in the street when they go to Ibiza. And it's a bit weird, like it's a bit awkward. They went up to my parents and they were just like, "We weren't okay with, you know, the granddad coming in and saying this to us, like, how dare you intrude in our restaurant, she's got nothing to do with us," etc. And my parents were just like, "Okay, we understand that, but just so you know, please tell her that she's never allowed to come back to our house, and we're also not going to be eating at your restaurant because you haven't stuck with us on this." And that's a shame because we are very regular customers. We come, you know, like every time we come over several times, and it's a shame because you obviously know that there's something wrong here. So anyway, cut a long story short, This woman ends up getting fired anyway. And I think the reason is because she's done some dodgy stuff. Like, she has obviously stolen something from them. There is no other explanation for it. They were really just sketchy about it. And I think they really regretted taking her side and just kind of like sticking up for their stuff. I understand it in a way because, yeah, it's their stuff. Like, they want to protect her. But it was just really bad, the fact that they kind of accused my parents of almost lying about it. It was really awkward. Like, every time I walked down Restaurant Row, this was years apart, by the way. So anyway, this is where I come into it. So being innocent me, like, meeting this woman once when she served me in the restaurant, like, seriously, I didn't even know her. Now, I was about 15, 16 when this happened, so this is ages ago. You can imagine how long ago this is, because I'm like 22 now. So yeah, really digging up the past on this story. However, I think it's funny, and this does not happen usually. This does not happen in day-to-day life. So I get a random friend request on Facebook. On Facebook! And who do you think it is? It's the one and only Joe. And I couldn't believe it. Why did she add me on Facebook? So anyway, she then like sends me a message, I think pretty much a couple of days after I deleted the request. And she said, "Hi Hattie, I think I've got my wires crossed with you. I'm sorry for adding you, didn't mean to." Something like that, I don't even know. And it was like a pretty okay reply, but I was annoyed at the fact that she stole money from my parents, and also I ended up not eating at like my favourite restaurant. They did really nice desserts there. So yeah, I was bitter. And I sent back, "Yeah, I wouldn't have added you back anyway because you stole money off my parents." Oh, that must have hurt. So yeah, that is the story on good old Joe. I love Joe stories. Oh my goodness. I hope I get more in the future. As bad as that sounds, I really do, because I love telling them. I don't have an update on the actual Joe, the official Joe situation. I wish that I did, but unfortunately, I do not. But anyway, on to the upstairs floor. So we've gone through quite a lot. There's a theme going throughout the house though. You'll notice that I use a lot of chandeliers. I adore the chandeliers. And if you're wondering where they're from, a lot of them are from the new Vampire pack. I keep saying brand new. It's not brand new. It's pretty old now, but I love it. And yeah, I got some really good ideas off that. So you'll notice as well, there's one bedroom that has got like ivy intertwined with it. And I think that style of room, which you'll see in a minute, is probably too traditional for the build, but I still really like it, and I want to do a more cottagey build. I'm thinking about restaurants and stuff. So if you actually have a family that you want a restaurant being built for them, then put them on the hashtag HatsyHomes and I'll make the restaurant, because I really want to do some crazy builds. I think I'm going to try and pick out like the strangest storylines, the ones that are really weird, or just put some funny stuff in, like the family was doing really well and then Joe stole all the money. That's just so relatable. I mean, that's really all I can say about it. I just tried to follow the theme throughout. The bedrooms themselves, there's a mix. There's a little bit of a separate apartment going on down here, so you'll be able to see that. You've got like a separate kitchen upstairs. So maybe you could have like a family living here, maybe a teen or something. My parents have that at the moment. They have my sister who actually lives in their attic. And I've always found it a bit weird because I've always thought, yeah, I probably never want to live in my parents' attic in my life. But hey, each their own. To be fair, each their own. So yeah, anyway, giving you a little bit of an update about things at the moment. So on my last video, I did an update video and I spoke about the build probably the least I've ever spoken about it before. But that's because it was an update about like what's going on with me and stuff. I wanted to just let you know like what was going on with the recording situation, because some people want to know, and it's only for the people that care. Like, I got some comments like, "Oh my gosh, I was just here to see the van," or you know, whatever, and that's fine. Like, you know, again, each their own. But I kind of wanted to update you because I've been talking to YouTube recently, and I think I mentioned it in one of my videos, but I haven't mentioned it in depth. But I basically got a call off YouTube and I've been in contact with them since. Like, I've been joining group chats. I went to YouTube Space with Molly and Steph, but we didn't go like because we were asked. We went because we wanted to. We met up and we went because that's that. So can't say too much about that yet, but hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be saying a bit more about like why we went out and stuff at a later date. But yeah, so YouTube basically said that one of the things they really like at the moment is the fact that I'm sort of sharing bits of my life with YouTube and with the builds that I do, because a lot of people don't do that. And not only that though, they've given me some really cool ideas for the future and like how to incorporate that into the channel. And there were some things that I mentioned with them that I wasn't too sure about, and there were kind of ideas in the back of my head and I was thinking, I really love this idea, but I don't know whether to do it. And honestly, they filled me just so much with encouragement, and from then, like, speaking to people that really know what they're talking about, and you know, they can kind of guide me in a way, it was really helpful, and it's exactly what I needed. So honestly, like, this is a little bit of an update to basically let you know that if you've been coming for the builds and like you don't particularly like the commentary, or you know, whatever reason, you're probably not gonna like where the channel's gonna be in the future, because I'm still gonna be sharing builds, but it's gonna be a mix of things. I've got some really cool ideas coming up, but yeah, you'll just have to wait and see. But if you do like stories and stuff incorporated with builds, then I've got some really cool ideas. So I don't know how much you'd probably use the top floor because it is very separated from everything else. But to be fair, a really cool challenge would be to have someone living in the upstairs of the build and having like a stranger challenge. Oh my goodness, I've been making up the most ridiculous challenges recently. Is it possible? Answer me this, is it possible to have a stranger living in your house in The Sims 4 without the Sims actually introducing themselves to each other? That would be really cool. Can you imagine though? Just having like, let's say a random family just living on the top floor, but they would never meet them. How strange would that be? I don't think I've ever had that situation. No, in fact, I have. Going back to Ibiza, I've never met any of the neighbours. I could link all roads back to Ibiza at this point. But no, pretty interesting. I like it though. There's loads of like pots and plants and things, and that's really just because of what I've picked up from just looking at builds like this. And I don't know, I just imagine to have a lot of plants in. I personally love plants. I really do. And I actually have a lot of respect for people that can keep plants. I have had neighbours in the past who have had like hanging baskets of flowers, and they look amazing. And to keep a hanging basket of flowers is apparently more difficult for me than maintaining 2 dogs. Like, how does that even happen? Apparently we weren't even trusted with our hanging basket, because when we bought our house, so get this, it originally had a hanging basket, and then when it came to the move-in day, we had the hanging basket no longer. So I'm guessing we weren't trusted with it. I have no idea. But yeah, there we go. I hope that at some point I'll be able to have like this many flowers. I incorporated loads of those pink flowers in, as you can see, and I just wish that I could have something like that in my own house. But hey, we will wait and see. Maybe I'll get better at keeping them in the future. But anyway, that is the end of the build, so I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see all future videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you all soon.